Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the 1 Minute Writing Tip podcast. I am so excited for today's author guest. I'm talking to Jana Toit, who is the best-selling author of Create a Beautiful Life. She's a personal mentor and a student Christian counselor who helps Christian women to find themselves again and to find their passion and their purpose, find their tribe, and to start a side hustle while reconnecting with God and his people and unlock the abundance in their lives. Jana, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Thanks, Caitlin, for having me.
So will you just share a little bit about your background and how you really got to where you are today with Christian women and with counseling?
Yeah. So I was like a regular working woman. I had a bookkeeping career, and in 2016, my life came crashing down to a point where I had a complete rock bottom. Everything, all the categories in my life fell apart, and the only thing that kept me going was my faith in God. And I went back to the drawing board, asked God, what. Because I looked at my life and it was nothing like I wanted it to be. Nothing, I couldn't recognize my life thinking about what I wanted my life to be like. And I asked God to help me rebuild from there. And I started off as a weight loss coach through an exercise challenge, and it was weird and wonderful, but we actually created an online following very quickly, unintended. And from there, the weight loss coaching. And then at a point in that journey, my husband and I got separated, and I went through this crisis of who am I? Because I couldn't really find the answers that I needed. And I remember looking through Google, trying to find, how do you find yourself, or how do you know who you are, and stuff like that. And I really couldn't find anything. And it put me on this whole journey of studying life coaching and CBT, mindfulness, NLP, just to kind of understand myself and understand my clients at the time, my weight loss clients. And one day on the treadmill, I was looking for something inspirational to listen to while I was busy, pumping it out on the treadmill. And I found a Jim Rohn motivational tape on YouTube, and he challenged us to actually read 100 books a year. And at the time when I heard that, I thought to myself, this sounds crazy. How can you read 100 books a year? And I actually challenged myself, and that was about 2018. And I started reading 100 books a year, and that changed a lot of things in my mentality. So my coaching kind of shifted from weight loss coaching into mind what do I call it? Not mindfulness, but mentality coaching. Mindset coaching. So then I understood a lot more about why we do things and why we sabotage ourselves and stuff like that. And in that journey, I had a moment where I had to niche down, when I was learning a little bit more about business and learning that you can't really speak to everyone. You need to niche down a little bit. And I realized at that time, because firstly, I worked with men and women all over the world. No, it didn't matter to me who it was. And then it was just women. And then there was a moment where I realized I can't keep talking about whoever your God is, or God, or the universe, or whoever you want to call it, because that felt incongruent to me. So I felt like I was denying God every time I said that. And I had to make this mind shift and realize that I'm a Christian coach, and I want to work with Christian women, because I don't want to downplay my God. I don't want to downplay my faith, and I want to talk freely. So if I want to be congruent to myself and authentic, then I need to work with Christian women who won't get offended when I talk about my faith, because that's one of my highest values. So that's how I came to working with Christian women specifically. And then because of being an online coach, I've learned so much about business and self-publishing my own book and creating courses and, coaching, that I wanted to share everything that I've learned, because I had all of this information in my head, and it just felt like if I die today, all of this is going to go to waste. So I need to find a way to create a legacy for me, for my girls, for my daughters. I've got 3 daughters, and for the people that I serve, because I don't want the information to get lost. I've studied so many hours and read so many books by now. I think I counted last year, it was 650 books that I've read, and that's including all of the courses and the stuff that I've done. So I want to convey that to other people so that they can benefit from it too, because it feels selfish just to keep it for myself. Yeah, and that's where I'm at today.
Wow. I love so much of what you shared. And I think that so many people can relate as well to your story and to your journey of just reaching different places of, where am I and what am I doing and where am I going and what do I really want life to look like? I think a lot of people reach a place where they're just lost, and they're searching for those answers. Mm-hmm. And I can personally relate as well to many aspects of that journey as well, such as, who am I really speaking to and what am I trying to create here? And really just stepping into that place of, okay, this is about God, and this is about his purpose and his calling on my life, and not just me and little, mm-hmm. my little plan here, so I can definitely understand that. So speaking of, I think that's amazing how many books you've read. And I mean, that is definitely quite an accomplishment. And I understand what you mean on wanting to not just read it for yourself, but also have that for your daughters and for, others, and be able to pass that along. So how did that really culminate in your own book and the story that you put in there for your readers and also for your clients?
Yeah. Well, when I had this dream of becoming an author, I always put it on like a 10-year goal. I always thought of it as this faraway thing that maybe will happen someday. And when I actually started writing the book, and I realized that this can happen in like quicker. It can happen like a year or 2 years. It doesn't need to take like 10 years. And when I started planning my book, I was thinking about what do I want to write about? And I thought, okay, I want to give like a summary of the stuff that I've read so far, the stuff that I've learned so far, the major lessons. So at first I had like 11 main points. And I started writing the book like that. And I had this weird idea that's like, I'm going to use like Disney characters. I don't know why I did that, but I had this whole elaborate plan. And I wrote like half the book. And then I realized that this book is firstly incongruent, because that's when I had that crisis about, do I talk about the universe or do I talk about my God? What do I talk about in this book and who am I addressing? So halfway into writing that book, and my first initial idea was writing I don't know how many, I think I set my mind on 45,000 words. I wanted to write a big book. And my book coach at the time told me, you're someone new in the industry, or you're not someone that's known. So people are not going to pick up a 45,000 word book to get to know you. Okay, rather write something quicker, or something that's smaller as an entry level, so that people can get to know you first before they're going to invest so much time and money into what you have to say. So then I went back to the drawing board, and that's about a year into the journey of writing my book. Went back to the drawing board, scrapped the idea of Disney, and I wanted metaphors in my book, and I didn't want to use myself only. So that's why I created this character, the mermaid, and this whole elaborate story around her. And at the time, I realized that it's a bit ridiculous. So I had to scrap the whole mermaid idea. And I actually just wrote the book with my own personal stories. And I wrote it for Christian women specifically. And I drilled down all of those 11 points, and I kind of summarized it in 5 main points. And then for every main point, I think I had 3 sub points for every main point. And then when I had that outline, then it got easier, because then I could sort all of my information into that categories. And figuring out that Word actually had like a navigation pane was one of the most bestest things that I ever learned that I didn't know. So in the beginning, when I wrote my book, it was like crazy. I had to read the whole thing to see where I am at and where I've finished. And it drove me nuts. And then when I figured out the navigation pane, I was like, oh, this is amazing. So yeah.
Yeah,
That
no,
is how.
absolutely. Yeah. It's such a good point that, especially when you're writing your very first book, it's important to have that kind of guideline, right? And that clarity
Yeah.
of where am I going with the book and what am I trying to accomplish with the book? Kind of like a condensed version of what you said about your own personal journey, right?
Yeah.
But for a specific project, you have to have that okay, where am I taking my readers, right? What journey am I taking them on, and where am I leading them to? Because the book is not just, this thing. It has to have purpose and intention, and you are taking your readers on a journey somewhere. So yeah, that's amazing. Well, I'm so excited. I think your book is amazing, and it truly is a beautiful capturing of your own story, and inspiring for the readers, which I'm saying from from me reading it. So
Thanks.
talk a little bit more about what you're doing now and how that really impacts the women that you're working with.
Yeah. Well, at the moment, like I said, I started out teaching the women to find themselves again, because that was the first obstacle that I overcame in my journey. And then after that, it became more about finding out what my passions and purpose were, because then I knew, okay, this is who I am, this is my personality type, and all of those things. But I needed to know, okay, because I remember at the time my husband had this hobby of being a bladesmith, and I was always so jealous of the time he spent on that. And I was jealous of that he had that passion for that. And I also wanted that hobby that I was so passionate about and stuff. And I had some hobbies like playing the guitar, and I was working in the garden a little bit. I did some crochet, but nothing really that set my soul on fire. So creating that whole passion and purpose module of what I help women with was something that I really found super useful for me to find out my passions and purpose. And my passions and purpose is doing what I do now, is sharing the knowledge with the women, so that they don't have to go through this long, elaborate journey to get to the point I'm at, so that I can create shortcuts for them. And then helping people find their tribe, because when you transition from a corporate career and you start doing an online business, there is so much technical stuff that you need to learn. So I don't think we realize how much technical things we need to learn when we become an entrepreneur. So that is something that I teach as a way to find the people that's going to be your customers that you're going to serve. And then basic things like sales and marketing, all of those things, keeping your customers happy, value delivery and content creation, all of those things. And then the last thing that I work on, which is actually the foundation of everything, is having a solid foundation in your relationship with God and with God's people, because we serve a relational God, and He is a community in Himself. Okay. And He created us for community. So you cannot come into physical or into spiritual maturity on your own. You need community. And so when you look at things like an abundant life is something where you are fulfilled, you are doing what you love, you are not struggling from pillar to post. You know what you need to do. You're operating in the will of God. And for that to happen, you need to have a relationship with the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit reveals God's will for you. And when you're in that relationship with God and you constantly take your life and your business to Him, then you're in the will of God and you're doing the stuff He wants you to do. And then you will be blessed. He will unlock that abundance over you. And it says that in the Bible, and we miss that. And like you said just now, is we do our own little thing and we struggle and we don't know why we're not getting it right. It's because we're trying on our own. We're not operating within the will of God for our lives. So we're not operating in abundance. So yeah, that's what I teach my women.
Wow, I love that so much. And you are so right on just every aspect of what you said, and that's true. And I think, it applies for whether you're, regardless of what type of business you're in, or what, or especially like, for our listeners, those who are writing a book and are pursuing, becoming an author, it's the same thing. You can't just sit down and expect it to just come out perfectly. Like, it's beyond yourself. And in order to achieve those goals as an author, you need community as well in order to support the book and really, make it reach bestseller, right? And to help it to go as far as it possibly can. So, there's so many parallels there for sure, between like business and becoming an author and or any other venture as well in life. I think ultimately it's walking according to God's will and the purpose for your life, and making sure that you're grounded in the right place. So yeah, absolutely. So you actually recently accomplished that dream with your book within the last year, right?
Yeah. I published on the 28th of June, so mid-year.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So what was that process really like for you? You talked a little bit about the writing and scrapping and, finally getting out your actual book. So talk to me a little bit more about that process once the book was written.
Yeah. Well, once the book was written, I just want to check my notes here, because for those of you who don't know, I actually have ADHD. So I need a little list to just keep me on track. So obviously, after you've written your manuscript, it is important for us to prepare to publish, and we have a little launch sequence, because you don't just publish the book and expect miracles to happen. So you have to, get a launch team together, and you need to do all the little technical things, because self-publishing a book, again, you think just about writing the book, but there's so many technical little things that needs to get done that I promise you are going to need a mentor or a coach to take you through that process. I mean, figuring that out on your own, I think alone will take you like 5 years if you need to do it on your own. So just having someone that can give you the pointers, saying, okay, now you need to upload this. Now you need to create your author page. And now you need to format the thing in the thingy, So all of that little technical steps needs to happen before your publish date. And you need to book your promoters and all of those things, and keep your launch team activated, because it doesn't help you getting 50 people for a launch team and they're not interested. So you have to when you have created your cover, you share that with your launch team and you get them excited, and you share some little excerpts of your book, and you ask them for feedback and all of that things, so that you can refine the book that you're writing. So that is the preparation, and then making sure of the marketing. So creating I used Canva to create book mock-ups and stuff, to put it out to my audience and tell them there's something coming, there's a book launching and stuff, and creating a little I don't know what the word is, upheaval or something, just to get them excited about the book. So when the book finally launches, that you actually have some sales. And then finally, when you publish your book, there's a lot of things that you need to remember with that as well. So for that part, you also need your coach to show you and help you through that. And then finally, when launch day arrives, I remember having goosebumps when you press that publish button and you're like, oh, is this thing ready? Is everything done? Did I remember everything? And then pressing that publish button, and just the relief and the sheer horror of pressing that button. And then you need to keep watching whether it's going, whether it's going up in the rankings, and take some screenshots and stuff for you to use as promo material. So my book, let's just see where I've written it down. I can't find it now, but I think my book went #1 in 8 categories, and I had 411 downloads in that launch week. So I was very happy with that. And that was the thing I was looking for, is just having that bestseller badge. And just, that was the thing I wanted to accomplish, publish the book and get it to #1 bestseller. And then I was happy. So what I didn't realize is there's a whole process afterwards to try and promote your book again. So I'm still in the process of learning all about that. So I know for me, the main strategy is to get on podcasts and get on interviews like this where you can promote your book. So my aim is to do about 150 interviews where I talk about my book, so that people can get to know me and the book and want to order it. So yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just as a side note, a huge congratulations on that #1 bestseller, because, that really is a huge accomplishment. People don't realize that out of the many books published, only about 1% actually end up hitting bestseller, especially without that right support. And so it goes back to, having that community and having, the right steps, and that's amazing. So yeah, congratulations on that for sure.
Thanks so much.
And yeah, it is a continued growing process and just continued learning. And I think so many people have this, they just focus so much on getting the book published. And then once it gets published, then it's kind of like this deer in the headlights of, okay, now what, right? And so they start riding this kind of emotional roller coaster. What comes next, and it's a whole different journey. And so I always like to say that, especially for your first book, that publishing a book is like a gateway, right? And you have to, whenever you walk through that doorway into this whole new world of possibilities, and now it becomes a kind of an adventure, because you start to explore those different possibilities. And the book has so much potential for you in your business, but you have to utilize it, and take it along for the ride with you, because there's so many different directions and avenues you can go, but in all the best ways possible. And so I love that. So yes. So having been through that journey and, being where you are right now, looking back, what would be your top 1 to 3 pieces of advice for aspiring authors who want to start pursuing the process, and they have that book idea that's really God-given, right, for their ultimate purpose, but they're still held back by a lot of doubts and fears and struggles about the process?
Yeah. The main thing for me that helped, because like I said, the first manuscript I had to scrap. So I came to a point where I was quite hopeless about the book, and I thought just about leaving this dream. And then I started having a regular writing hour in the morning. Before all my kiddies woke up, I set my alarm for an hour earlier than I normally woke up, and I just sat down on my laptop, and whatever came out of that hour was good. So that's the first thing that I did that really took me out of that slump, because I was really depressed about the book. I didn't want to look at it anymore. And then when I did that regular hour, it took me out of that out of that hole of depression about this huge book that I wanted to get out. That really helped me. And then baby steps. Getting a coach is crucial. You cannot, you can do it on your own, but it's going to take you a lot of time and frustration. I mean, it's a frustrating and difficult process with a coach. So doing it on your own is not recommended, not from my perspective. And then number 3 would be do it for what it would make you to become it, because that whole process of writing a book, it shapes you, and it shapes your philosophy, especially if you're writing nonfiction. For me, it just clarified my whole message to my clients, and it helped me develop my systems much better, because now I had this framework of how to, because you've got all of this information in your head, and conveying it to someone in a coaching call, in the right way that they can have a transformation is quite difficult, and it's quite tricky. So having the framework and having the steps, because I've written it out, just clarified it for me a whole lot. And I just want to say that someone out there needs your book. So if you have this dream of writing a book, there is someone out there that really needs the information that you've got in your head right now. Les Brown has a quote that I love. He says, "Live full, but die empty." So don't die with all this information in your head. And I use that quote for my inspiration, for me, for creating my content, is die empty, give everything you can. So yeah, that's what I would say.
That's such a powerful quote. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I totally agree. I think those are some great points, especially for those who, like you said, they have this idea there's a purpose in that, there's someone that needs it. And I would argue there's a whole group of people that need it, it's not serving anyone staying stuck up in your head. So, as you're looking forward to 2023, I'm curious if you have any upcoming works that you'd like to share about with the listeners.
Yeah, so I've got two groups. I've got a South African group and a global group for Christian women aged 30 to 60 on Facebook, and it's called Rockbottom to Rocksolid. So you need to go and look for that group. You can go into that group, and in the pinned section, you will find that I've got the Life Transformation Accelerator, and it's only open to group members. So Christian women aged 30 to 60. Where I teach you this whole process of finding your passions and purpose and a few other things as well. I actually took my whole life practitioner diploma and I've written it it's actually a year course that I teach like a life coaching client, and I've condensed it into 30 days. So it's a 30-day life transformation accelerator where I give you daily action prompts with homework. So I take you through a journey where I teach you everyday action steps, and then I hold you accountable so you can have that transformation and finally figure out what your passions and purpose is, and a whole lot more. So if you were looking for a life coach and joining a life coach, you would know that life coaches are quite expensive, but this course normally goes for $97. And for now, because it's still in the beta stage, it is available for $20. So for $20, the price of a gourmet pizza, you can go and join the Life Transformation Accelerator 30-day challenge. And we have a WhatsApp group. It's like almost like Voxer. So it's a WhatsApp group where I do voice notes and stuff with you, and you can communicate with me back and forth. And we also have a dedicated Facebook group for that. So join the Rockbottom to Rocksolid group and get into that 30-day transformation challenge.
Oh, wow. I love that so much. I think that sounds like such an amazing opportunity and so much value, right, for what you put into it. And, that's like a lifetime of return on investment. So that's amazing. So how can listeners connect with you further? Obviously you talked about the group and the challenge, so we're recommending that they do that. But if they want to follow you and they want to further connect, how can they do that?
So they can find me on Facebook. It's Jana the Toit. I think it's in brackets, it's personal mentor and author and mentor. They can find me there, and all the things that I do is there. So links to the groups or links to everything that I do is on my personal Facebook. And then obviously my book is available on Amazon. The book Create a Beautiful Life, a Christian Woman's Freedom Guide from Feeling Lost to Finding Yourself Again. So it's got a little bouquet of flowers. It's a white book with a bouquet of flowers on it. So you will easily be able to find it, and you can get it there. I think it's currently priced at under $10. So you can go and find it there.
Amazing. Yeah. And it's a beautiful cover, by the way.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. So for all my listeners, if you want to learn how to find your passion and purpose and really start living your life in a way that reconnects with God and his purpose for your life, definitely do connect with Jana and get in her group and be involved in her challenge. I will include all of her details in the description for you guys. Jana, thank you so much again for joining me on the podcast.
Oh, it was lovely to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So for all my listeners, thank you so much also for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, leave a review wherever you're listening from, and I will see you guys on the next one.